Hi, I'm Don, and I'm going to share with you my way of studying to be a licensed real estate broker, agent. I've taken a class at Bergen Warner, and it's an online course. And the way I've been studying is I have the book, Modern Real Estate Practice in Illinois, edition 10. Then I'm also taking the online class where everything is online. It's kind of an interesting way of studying. I think if you want to get your real estate license, which I do not have, but I'm fairly confident that I'm going to at least attempt to take the test, and I have an optimistic feeling about passing it. First and foremost, this has opened up doors to me with these electronic book. The Modern Real Estate Practice in Illinois 10th edition, that's online. This is I do believe it's called an ebook. And what you're allowed to do is it will take text and turn it to voice. So what happens is when you highlight, you open up the book, you go through a website that I'm not allowed to, I'll disclose that later, but I don't want to infringe on any copyright laws at this stage in this video, because I think it'd be close to maybe violating a copyright law, which I do not want to do. So what I'm going to do is make a few generalizations. I'm taking this real estate course through Bergen Warner. They will help you, they send you emails. The cost isn't, it's under $1,000. It's over $500 for the course. It gives you the 75-hour minimum training. So to become a broker, you have to have training and you have to have the written test out of the way, which is a computerized test. So I'm going through Bergen Warner, and it's an online course. They send you emails and they send you links. So you have to have a computer and you must be able to communicate with Zoom. I have an Apple computer. I'm not sure if that makes a difference, but I think it does. An Apple computer works for me, even though when I sign in, they say my software is not up to date. It is up to date. I'm not sure what they mean by calling it retro, but it does work properly, even though it claims it doesn't. You follow the instructions in the emails, and they're rather involved. But once you get up and running, you get links to open up your ebook. First, for example, on this, you go to your browser, and when you're given the links, you save. When you get it, it's through a book that, I don't know if you can see the screen here, but this is Modern Real Estate Practices. You go through a website or a portal, they will give you all that information. Then I go to Modern Real Estate Practices. I'm working on one of the very last chapters. And again, I don't want to divulge any copyright laws, but every unit or chapter in the book, just in this book, as well as in the electronic book, is labeled different units. So right now I've been through this. I'm going to start off on unit 23 because I'm working on unit 23. I've been into this program now for about a month and I'm really excited about it. What I'd like to do is show you what I do. First of all, is you can have this read to you. It's called text to voice. And when you open up your ebook, there'll be a drop-down menu that says add notes, copy, look up in Wikipedia. You can create flashcards or you can read aloud from the book. So what you do is you press the read aloud, and I'll just let it for a second. I don't think this will violate any copyright laws.
Unit 23, closing the real estate transaction.
Okay, to make a long story short, that gives you, it reads to the entire chapter. So my first task is whenever I study a unit, I listen to the entire chapter as well as read along. But one of the things that I do with my Apple computer is I create through notes, which is there's the icons along the bottom here. You can create a note. And the way I do this is I take the note and I highlight it. And then I clip and paste. Now again, this might violate a copyright law, and I don't mean to, but I'm not selling this information per se. I am selling, or not really selling, I'm just demonstrating at no charge how I plan to get through my test. And the first thing I do is I highlight the unit number, Unit 23, Closing Real Estate Transactions. Or I highlight it and then it says copy. So it gives you a function to copy, clip, and paste. Then I go to my notes and then I press Control V. So the notes, it gives me the heading. It has the learning objective and the key terms. My first step, what I do is I copy that, then I take the key terms and I highlight them all. And then I copy them. Then I go back to my notes, hit the enter button a couple of times, and I do a Control V. So I print out or display or copy all the key terms for this chapter. Then I put it like a little question mark after each term. Now that I've done that, I take the cursor and I bring it up to the very first term called accrued item. Then I take the cursor and I put it up at the very first item. I go down arrow. After I put a question mark after each one of these, then I hit enter. And I do it 4 times. Arrow down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Arrow down, 1, 2, 3, 4. Arrow down, 1, 2, 3, 4. So every one of those I do, I don't have to worry about clipping and paste. I just look at my keyboard and I notice the hand actions. I don't concern myself a lot over what I'm actually moving. I just get like a rhythm. In other words, a muscle memory of the keystrokes. So now that I've got my key terms on my notes, I go to the glossary. So the very first key term here is accrued item. So I look up under accrued item here and I clip and I highlight and I copy. Then I go to accrued item and then I press Control V, which copies the term accrued item to this. So and I do this to all the different, I do that to all the different key terms in the chapter. So right now I'm going to stop just to spare you the time of me doing that. I'll pick up when I am done. So now I have copied all my key terms that are in chapter 23. So I go back to my electronic modern book called The Modern Real Estate Practices in Illinois. And I go to chapter 23 because that's the chapter I'm working on right now. I've listened to this completely. So what I go down to is first of all, go down to I've listened to this, and that's one of the first steps. You want to either read the chapter, and what I do is I go from read to voice. So it's kind of nice that it narrates it and talks to you, and I read along both. And I do this more than once. So then the summary, you go through that. Now we're on Unit 23 quiz. So again, I take this and I copy, I highlight question 1, and I add copy. So that has been copied. Then I go to my notes over here, and I hit Control V. Then I hit a question mark. I hit the enter thing twice. I put another question mark, and I hit it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. So that's question 1. Now I go to question 2. Highlight, copy, move it to the notepad. Control V, then I put a question mark in it because when the voice goes to read it, it gives you like a question mark sound in the voice, which is fun. So again, question 3, highlight, copy, go to my notes, move it over, Control V, hit the enter twice, then hit question mark 3 more times. Now go to question 4, copy, move it on over, Control V, put a question mark in it, hit the enter twice, shift, question mark, 1, 2, 3. So as I go down, I'm copying all of these questions. And again, I'm not selling these questions, I'm just doing this for myself, so I'm not violating any copyright laws. I don't sell the property. I'm doing this for my own studying. So then we go to question number 6, highlight, copy, move it over to notes, question mark, hit it twice, hit it 3 times. Question 7. Again, a little tedious, but I think this is definitely helpful. That already has a question mark on it, so I don't have to put a question. Question 8. Highlight, copy, move over to notes. Control V, hit it 3 times. I'm going to hit it a bunch more just to get it my notes up a little bit higher on my thing here, on my computer screen. So that's about 3. So again, I go down 1 more. So what I need to do is kind of messed it up here a little bit. So I'm going to go question mark 1, 2, 3. So now I got this. I move it over. I put a question mark on there. 1, 2. Then 1, 2, 3. So my next question, number 9. Oops. Number 9. I go here, highlight it, copy it, move it on over to my notes. Control V, question mark 1, 2, question mark 1, 2, 3. So as I keep going along, I'm on question 10. A little bit tedious, a little bit boring, but oh well. It's kind of good for me to see what I'm doing here because I'm learning as I go along too. Every one of these steps that I'm doing, my mind is being trained on how to study. Control V, and then this doesn't have a question mark. Hit 2 times, Control, question mark. Question 12, highlight, hit copy, move it over. So once you get a little rhythm going down, it goes fairly quickly. And when I'm finding out, I learned this morning that I listen to these over and over and over again. So the more you go through these questions, the better you get at answering them. Now, in the final test, they're not the same. Many of these questions will be different. But it's still helpful because this is part of the process that I use. I take the question, I copy it, then I bring it to my notes, and then display it or paste it as the word. So on question 15, I go through 20 questions. It takes about 5 minutes. It doesn't take that long. So I do believe whenever you get lost, you just read where you're at. So under TRID, copy, go to this side, Control V. It has a question mark on it already. Some of them don't. So I'm under 17. Here's question 17. Highlight it. Copy it. I'm going to do a better job copying it. Copy. 1, 2, question mark. 1, 2, 3. Question 18. One, two, 1, 2, 3. Question 19. Which of these is blah, blah? Again, I don't want to violate any copyright laws. I don't think I'm violating any right now because I'm not actually divulging what the content is saying. Basically, these are questions that will be on the test. And I'm just becoming familiar. Not all questions, our instructor said that not all the questions, in other words, memorizing these questions really doesn't guarantee that you'll pass the test. Because there's 5,000 different other questions they can throw at you. But what I'm doing here is learning the material. So now, getting back to this, I go to question 1, and if I can figure out the question, that's great. But what I do at first is, without even bothering, I do try to see what the question's answering or asking. I try to solve the question or answer the question by the selections given. But before I do that, I go right to the answers, right off the bat. I've read the chapter, and if I can get the answer, that's great. But I'm more concerned about getting it right when I play back. You also have to have coffee whenever you do this. Plenty of coffee. So now I go to the answers in the back of the book. So again, I think it's good to have the book and the electronic book as well as the paper hard copy or the soft hard copy. So I'm on the answer key, unit 23. So I go to question 1, unit 23, question run. Then I go back to my notes and I go up to the top. So the very first question, and you gotta be kind of careful, because what it is here, I have all my definitions, but I don't have the actual quiz questions. So I have my definitions here, then I highlight the Unit 23 quiz, copy, go up a little bit, just hit Control V. So the Unit 23 quiz is right here. So I know when my quiz starts. So right off the bat, I know what's going on. So I go to question 1, and then I keep an eye on, I read the question here, and then I read the question on my notes that I've copied. And I go down to my second question mark. I go backspace, then I go to the answer key, Unit 23, question 1, being very careful, is A. So I go to question A and I highlight the question. Now again, I want to know these questions back and forth, but right now I'm not 100% worried about taking the test. I'm more worried about getting into a bit of a rhythm. So here's question 2, answer B. So I take answer B and highlight that, copy it, move it over to my notes. And again, bear with me. If this is a little boring, this is question 3, but so what? I'm still learning on this too. So question 3 is title insurance. Which of these would a lender generally require at the time of closing? The answer, title insurance. Question 4, again, it goes fairly quickly when you get a rhythm going. Question 4 is D. I don't put in there the letter. I don't really care about the letter. I just care about understanding the question and understanding the answer. I don't want to know what number it is because I have no idea what they're going to throw on the test. The test question that I actually see might not be this question, but the way you can drill this in and just constantly listen to this, and listen, I'm going to listen to this 20 or 30 times. Yes, the questions will be a little bit different on the actual test, but they can, first of all, they can only change the questions around so much. If you know the material, you'll be able to figure out what they're getting. For example, this one's about the principal, whatever that is. So I go to question 5. Unit 23 answer is credit to the buyer. I don't believe I'm violating any copyright laws by putting this in here. Next, I roll it up, the question. I'm not going to read the question because that will maybe violate copyright laws. So I'm on question 6. The answer is B. Credit to the buyer. They can't take my real estate license away from me because I don't have one. Question 7, alpha, highlight, copy. Question 8, answer C. Question 9, okay, verify. Again, I will work these problems out. When I'm done, I'm just going to go through here real quick while I got my rhythm going here. Question 10. These amounts are probably, it's not going to do me all that much good to memorize these amounts because I'm probably going to get a different question on the test. But at first, you gotta learn to crawl before you can walk, and you need to learn to walk before you can run. So right now, I'm at the crawling stage of learning these questions. The day of the test, you got to be able to answer these questions pretty quickly. You can't be wasting a lot of time. You should be able to know the answers to these questions fairly quickly. If you don't, now I kind of screwed up my little equation here, but I'm back to number 12. Number 12 is A alpha. So I want to know the information, but right now I give myself a break as far as trying to figure out the question. I'm more interested in making sure everything's laid out. But right now I just got out of sync here. So I'm on question 12. Copy the answer, the question, clip and paste. Guess A, question 13. Is d delta. Clip and paste. 14. General information. Question 14, the answer is B. Copy it. Go here, boom, loan estimate. Now when the question, I'm not going to divulge the full question, but it's asking about the word consummate. So in the question, the word consummation is here. The answer is 3 business days. So what I'm going to do is take a little step. Before I do that, let me keep going here. I'm on 15. Here's question 16. I got 4 more to go. Under this question, number 16, B Bravo is the answer. Verify under this question. Number 17, click it on over. 17 is A Alpha, $5.83. I think I know what that question's asking already. So right off the bat, I have an idea where I'm going with these questions. In Illinois, the blah blah. Seller's attorney is the answer for question 18. So when I hear the voice talking about, or the text-to-voice computer asking the question, I'll know seller's attorney. Question 19 is Alpha. Copy it. Clip. Now the very last question in Illinois, blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't want to divulge anything, get any copyright laws. So who pays the taxes? The seller. Okay, so now I have all the test questions and I have all the answers. So just to give you a little idea, I don't know how this is going to come across. But let me show how this works. I go to my notes, and again, I don't know if everybody's computer does this, but on an Apple computer, when I go down to my app called Notes, I clip and paste, I go in, I highlight up here, and then I right click on the mouse, cursor down, it has a function called speech. You go across to speech and it says start talking, and this is what happens.
Unit 23, closing the real estate transaction.
Okay, so I'm not going to divulge any more of the reading back of the question for time's sake, and also maybe that would be possibly violating a copyright law, which I don't want to do. But I also do something else, and I'm kind of experimenting with this. So what I do is I go to accrued items. Now this is the word accrued items. I'm going to give myself a little bit of room here and kind of clean this up. And give myself a little space. So I space these things out a little bit. And then also, this is something I learned, is I put a comma after this term. What that will do is cause the voice to text to pause a second. So I hit a comma, then I hit tab, then I hit comma, then I hit tab. So whenever I put a comma after this, it causes the voice to text to pause a second. Now that I've opened this up, a little bit, I go to the definition accrued item. So I go to my word accrued item. This is on a closing statement. It gives the definition of accrued item. So whenever I come up to a question down here that has something about the accrued item as the answer, I stick the definition in there prior to the question. So I hear the question and I also get a reminder of what the definition or the key term is. And I get the definition of the key term before I'm subjected to the question. So regardless of the question I get on the actual exam, if it's a little bit different than the question that I'm actually going over, I'll still get an idea of what they're trying to convince me of. So let me see if I can find one of these that says accrued in the answers here. Okay, I don't see one, but here's an example of what I'm going to do. The word seller is one of the answers. There's a question here that asks something about it. I don't want to get into specifics, but the answer is seller. So what I'm going to do here is find the word seller. So I noticed that this isn't in one of the key terms. Well, I'm getting better at recognizing that whenever you read a chapter or a unit, the beginning of the chapter or the unit will have your key terms. So most of the time, not always, you will have in the list of key terms the answer to your question. And this is what I've been doing when I study. I go to Unit 23, so I'm working on one of these questions. The word seller is not in one of these key terms, which is interesting. Usually the word seller is, but what I'm going to do, because the word seller is not in one of the key terms, I'm going to go back to my glossary. Find the word seller, which is in the glossary. And it takes a little while to do this, but I think it's worth it because once you get this up and running, you can listen to this while you're doing other things. S-E-L-L-E-R. The word seller. I don't see the word seller in here. This is interesting. So in the word key terms, the word seller isn't in here. This is kind of showing me and showing you folks what you have to do, in my opinion. This is the way I am studying. And that's what's going to help me get through the test and help you get through the test. Because a friend of mine told me the most difficult thing about being a realtor is getting through this test. And I think he made a point. His mom and dad were both realtors. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. I'm surprised the word seller isn't in here. No, it's not. Okay, well, the word seller isn't in there. Interesting. Well, okay, so getting back to my test here. The word escrow is a good example. I do know the word escrow. So here's a question that asks something, and when one of the answer is escrow. So I'm going to open this up a little bit and move my notes around. So I go to my terms, escrow, and try to find escrow. A, B, C, D, E S. So escrow is E, A, B, C, D, E, E, S, C, R, O. E, S, C, R, O, W. E, S, C, R, O. Here's the word, the definition escrow. So I find the definition escrow, highlight it, copy it. Then I go to this. So I am going to put, just as a little hint on this question, what I do is before the question, I'm going to make a parenthesis mark, hit Control V. Now the definition of escrow is in here, and I have my own little way of putting parentheses around it. So when I go to listen to this, I take my cursor and I highlight all this. For example, I know you probably can't read this, and I don't want you to be able to for copyright laws. But I have the definition of escrow highlighted, I have the question highlighted, and I have the answer highlighted. So when I press speech, I go to my right click on my mouse and look at my options. Under my options, I'll have speech, and then I'll have the start speaking function. So this is a little bit about how it sounds, but I'm not going to play the whole thing out, but this will just be a little bit of a tease to show you what happens.
The closing of a transaction through a third party called an escrow agent or escrowee who receives.
I deliberately stopped it because I don't think I divulged anything from a copyright, but obviously when I'm studying this, I would listen to the complete narration all the way through. When I go through these, I am able to listen to these questions very many times. I set this up while I'm doing other tasks, while I'm preparing meals, where I'm doing other things, and I'm finding out that this is a big help. So again, just wanted to point this out. I'm Don. I'm studying for my real estate broker's license. I'm also going to be doing a Bible study, and I'm going to be putting together a Bible study as well as a real estate license studying where we'll study both. Again, thanks for your time.